Rin moved carefully across the torn valley, where metal and soil had fused under the blast heat of two clashing armies. Smoke drifted over ridges of cratered stone, and the air vibrated with the distant hum of enemy patrol craft. He knew he should have stayed with his squad, but a faint cry had cut through the static of his helmet receiver, something too small and soft to be a mechanical echo. Curiosity pulled at him, with a weight he could not ignore. He stepped over a collapsed drone and followed the trembling noise into a crevice formed by shattered rock dot. Inside the shadows, he found a small figure curled against the stone. The child's skin shimmered with a pale silver tone, marked with faint luminescent lines that pulsed like quiet breath. Its large eyes blinked at him without fear, though Rin carried the uniform of the faction that had clashed with the child's people since the first border dispute ignited into a full conflict. He knelt slowly, his hands open, showing the child he had no weapon out. It made a soft clicking sound, unsure but not hostile. Rin could not understand the language, yet the meaning reached him through tone alone. The child was afraid, lost, and alone. He checked the ravine for threats. No movement. No thermal signatures. Only the crackle of a failing field generator buried somewhere nearby. Rin knew what regulations demanded. Enemy juveniles were to be turned over to command for relocation. Relocation meant interrogation, long detainment, and sometimes more. The thought of this innocent creature, trapped in that machinery of war, twisted something inside his chest. He had seen enough conflict to know that cruelty rarely needed a reason. He lifted the child gently, supporting its weight as if carrying something fragile. It clung to him, small hands gripping his jacket with desperate trust. Rin stepped back into the open light, scanning the sky. Patrol craft of the enemy often swept this region. If they found him carrying one of their own young, they would not pause to ask questions. Yet he kept walking, shielding the child with his body as he moved toward a cluster of ruined transport pods. He found one with a working shelter module and ducked inside. The child sat against a padded wall, eyes half closed, breathing shallowly. Rin offered water and ration gel. The child hesitated, then accepted the water with small sips. It tapped its chest and spoke a soft name. Rin repeated the sound carefully. The child's eyes brightened with relief. That small exchange of recognition created a bridge between two species at war. Night fell. Rin kept his rifle at hand, but his focus remained on the child who had curled up near him. The gentle hum of its bioluminescent markings painted soft patterns on the shelter walls. Rin felt the strange calm of knowing he had crossed a line he could not uncross. The child was no longer an enemy. It had simply become a life in need of protection. At dawn, the sky split with 3 streaks of descending craft. Enemy signals flooded the area. Rin knew they were searching for the missing juvenile. He wrapped the child in his cloak and slipped outside. He planned to move through the ravine network and find a way to return the young one without provoking a confrontation. He hoped that his act would be seen for what it was: compassion, honor, humanity. He reached the ridge when the ground trembled. A towering figure landed before him. Armor plates of shimmering alloy flowed around her form like liquid metal shaped by intent. Her eyes, bright with the same luminescence as the child's markings, fixed on Rin with a force that made his muscles tense. She stood taller than him, her posture radiating authority and warning. She extended one hand and spoke words he could not understand, but her meaning was clear. "Give the child back. Aang set the child down gently." It ran to her at once, pressing small hands to her armor. The woman lifted it with relief, evident even through alien features. As she held the child close, she looked back at Rin. Something changed in her expression. She studied him with a gaze neither cold nor hostile. Her hand brushed the child's shoulders, and the young one spoke softly. The woman turned her eyes back to Rin again, with an intensity deeper than caution. Another patrol dropped from the sky, soldiers surrounding them with weapons raised. Rin braced for the end, but the woman spoke sharply, her voice firm with command. The soldiers hesitated. She stepped between them and Rin, placing herself as a barrier. Her stance was protective, deliberate. The soldiers backed away at her order. R. Ayn realized then that she was not a mere warrior. She was a leader, perhaps one of great influence. She looked at him one more time, her gaze lingering with a strange mixture of gratitude and something more. She motioned for him to follow. The escort led Rin through a narrow gorge to a concealed entryway carved into rock. Inside he found a hidden outpost of the alien faction, built from harmonized structures shaped by energy rather than tools. The walls glowed with patterns that matched the child's bioluminescence. The woman walked with calm authority, carrying the child and glancing back every few steps to ensure Rin kept pace. He was brought into a chamber where panels brightened as the woman approached. She set the child on a cushioned platform and turned toward Rin. She touched her chest and spoke her name. Rin repeated it. She nodded. She touched the child's head gently, speaking more words. The meaning was clear. The child had told her what Rin had done. He had protected one of their own instead of delivering it into danger. She moved closer, studying his expression. Her gaze softened. Ri and felt the weight of the situation settle on him. This was more than gratitude. He could sense a cultural significance in her actions. She extended her hand, not in greeting, but in something ceremonial. Her people must have seen such gestures as binding. He hesitated, fearing he would dishonor the gesture by misunderstanding it, but the child stepped forward and took his hand, placing it on hers. The woman closed her other hand around his. The act sealed a bond he could not entirely comprehend. From that moment, Rin became a guest rather than a prisoner. Warriors who had once seen humans as rivals now treated him with a wary respect. The woman kept him near her command chamber, often inviting him to observe her people's ways. She showed him how they shaped metal with sound vibrations, how they healed wounds with threads of luminous energy, and how they trained young ones in the rhythm of communal defense. Days passed. The child often tugged Rin along corridors, showing him small wonders of their technology and making chirping patterns he now slowly understood. The woman watched these interactions with a quiet expression. She remained regal, but something warmer flickered beneath her composed exterior when she looked at Rin. One day, she took him to an elevated terrace overlooking the valley where he had found the child. She explained through gestures and translated symbols that their people had never sought the war. They had responded to encroachment on their border, believing humans intended to strip their sacred sites. Rin explained through sketches and broken translations that humans believed the alien faction had struck first. Misunderstanding fueled the conflict from the beginning. She listened with care. Her eyes held a thoughtful depth, as if she weighed the future of her people with every word. Then she stepped closer. She pointed to Rin, then to herself, and clasped her hands together in a gesture he had seen only once before. She spoke slowly. Rin understood. She wanted him beside her, not just as a guest, but as a partner in bridging their worlds. His breath caught. The weight of such a union was immense. It would mean representing humanity among her people, and representing her people to humanity. It would also mean ties far deeper than diplomacy. The child tugged his sleeve and made a soft sound of encouragement. Rin knelt beside the child and looked into its luminescent eyes. He thought of the battlefield ruins, of the needless loss on both sides, of the possibility of turning a moment of compassion into something larger. He rose and placed his hand against the woman's. Her expression softened into something like relief. She drew him into the ceremonial chamber where elders of her faction gathered. They circled around the pair, chanting harmonic tones that vibrated through the air with gentle resonance. Light rose from the floor, weaving around their joined hands. The child stood between them, laughing softly as the energy danced like living threads. In that moment, Rin understood that this bond was not about ownership or control. It was about unity, about acknowledging that compassion crossed species lines. The woman, a leader forged by conflict and duty, had seen in him a possibility for peace. She had chosen him not because he rescued her child, but because he did so without expecting reward. That act revealed a truth about his people that she wished her own to recognize. As the ceremony ended, Rin felt the weight of new responsibility settle around him. The elders stepped aside, leaving the pair standing beneath the fading glow. The woman touched his shoulder in a gesture of acceptance. The child wrapped its arms around both of them. The chamber rang with the soft harmony of hope. Rin soon became part of strategic meetings where he shared human perspectives and listened to alien concerns. He discovered that many on both sides wished for an end to the conflict, but lacked a bridge strong enough to survive the weight of history. He and the woman worked side by side, drafting proposals for safe corridors, communication networks, and cultural exchanges. Their collaboration softened the stance of many hardened warriors, who saw in their alliance a path forward. Months passed,